What the hell have I just watched? I thought from the start of that race it was going to be the most boring race of all time. No one could get past anyone. Nothing was really happening. But as you can see, I was so stressed during that race. I've started to lose hair. What's going on? I could not believe that is the race that we watched. That is almost the perfect, in a general F1 sense, situation of how they would have got the title down to Abu Dhabi. All three of them are still in it. All three of them are within 16 points. I'm not kidding when I say it is still anyone's game. We never know who's going to crash. We never know who's going to have any mechanical issues. These things happen in F1. No one is safe. We'll say Lando does have the edge. We're in for an all-timer. I'm so excited. But let's actually talk about the Qatar Grand Prix, because the Qatar Grand Prix, it was good. It was good. I will say that. I do think it could have been better. It was a lot of trains. The first part of the race was pretty naff, but it sort of grew into it. The start, nothing much happened at the start, I have to admit. The race start was pretty tame. Norris got overtaken by Verstappen, which was, I think people thought was going to happen. Verstappen said he was going to throw it. Verstappen was on the better side of the track. Norris had a worse start, so once Verstappen was in second, understandable, nothing too crazy. And I think the actual big mistake was George Russell, who had a mistake and actually dropped down all the way back to P7. It really wasn't what he needed. And I mean, for my F1 Fantasy team, thank you so much, George Russell. I could have had you just hanging about in fourth. Would have done me a lot of more favours. But yeah, it wasn't the best start for George Russell. But after that point, nothing really happened until Gasly and Hulkenberg collided. It looked like it could have been a momentous weekend for Alpine, with Gasly getting more points, which he's actually had a couple of points in Brazil. It looked like in Qatar they actually had a half-decent amount of pace, but then Hulkenberg, Gasly, they just collided. For me, it was just one of those ones where it was a racing incident. Gasly probably could have given Hulkenberg more space. Hulkenberg was definitely on the track. It's just so hard to judge where the car's going to be in that situation, because Gasly can see Hulkenberg coming through. Hulkenberg thinks he's passed, and it's just back tyre to front tyre. It's never going to end well. Now obviously brought out the safety car, which brings us to the main talking point of the race. Are you Ferrari in disguise? Are you Ferrari in disguise? That is what I was singing today when McLaren were doing their strategies. I think they should just bloody hire me. I feel like I could do a bleeding better strategy than they did. I was screaming at the telly, pit, pit, pit. When they didn't pit, I was like, oh my God, Verstappen's pitting. Is everyone else going to pit? Of course everyone else pitted, because 25 laps on each tyre, this was like a blessing for everyone. Like, why would you not go for it, even for the double stack? I could not believe it from them. And I even posted on Twitter thinking this was definitely not the right call. And lo and behold, it definitely was not. It screwed both Piastri and Norris out of what could have been such a great race for both of them. It just goes back to that point where this incompetence at McLaren has been throughout the full season. And I really do have to agree when Verstappen says that. Like, I think just because it's Verstappen anyway, it's annoying to say, but if Verstappen was in that McLaren, he would have sealed the deal, yeah, back in like Mexico, Brazil time. It would have been such an easy season for him. But just at McLaren, there always seems to be something going wrong. Whether it be Oscar's not happy with them, whether it be them having bad pit stops, whether it be just at key points, Norris can't get his qualifying lap in. There's just always something that goes wrong at McLaren. And it's so scary because it feels inevitable. I mean, scary or good depending on what side of the fandom you're on, that Verstappen is just coming in closer and closer. He's now second place, 10 points behind Norris. It's incredibly close. And I think we have to talk about Verstappen next, because realistically, I'm not going to take this away from Verstappen. He had a brilliant race, fully deserved that win, fully deserved driver of the day. However, it's just because he kept it plain and simple. He pitted when he needed to pit. Red Bull got that right for him. Even when Piastri was on newer tyres, he was only gaining by less than half a second each lap. So Verstappen, he didn't even have anything to worry about. Brilliant drive from him. How qualifying third came into a cruise control first race for him is absolute scenes. This is what a 4-time world champion does. Potentially a 5-time if they continue this way with McLaren. So huge congratulations to Verstappen, because his season's not over just yet. And I will say, I think he'll be kicking himself a little bit that his sprint was so bad, because If Red Bull had got the sprint right, and it feels like deja vu happened in 2024 again. If the sprint was better for Verstappen, he would have been within 10 points potentially of Lando Norris, which I was worried, because 10 points, I can easily see Verstappen winning and Norris third. Very, very comfortably that happening, and that would have meant that on count back on wins, Verstappen would have won the championship if he had 10 or less points. Absolute scenes. So I do think Red Bull screwed up a little bit in the sprint, but overall you can't complain about that weekend from Red Bull and Verstappen. They've closed the gap, they did everything that they needed to do, they're in it to win it for the final race. Actually, funnily enough, I almost forgot to add this just because of just how much crazy stuff happened in this race and how much I had to recap. But I just want to stress out again, please, 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 can the F1 cameras pick up the right stuff in Abu Dhabi? They have to get it right, because once again we were shown at just how incompetent they were. There was like no action going on at the track in some points, and then they completely missed Alonso spinning and Hadjar and Russell having a ding dong heading into turn 1, and I could see it all on the intervals. It was like the only thing going on at that part of the race. Piastri, I'm pretty sure, was about to pit, if I'm remembering it right, but we had so much time to have a look at everything else going on the track. But no, let's just skip probably the most intense battle on the track at that part of the race. Probably the whole race, just because there wasn't any crazy battles, to just show nothing. They have to get Abu Dhabi right, because I could feel it being so frustrating if they do not show the right parts at the right moment. I shouldn't have faith in them, but please just don't get it wrong, because the amount of times they have this season is absolutely crazy for this level of broadcasting. Terrible how this can happen so often. Then actually heading into some of the incidents, because we didn't actually just have Hülkenberg and Gasly, we had quite a few localized incidents. Of course, we had Stroll. I don't really know what Stroll was doing the entire race. Again, he was very, very close to getting that fastest lap. I remember seeing on my screen, Sector 1 fastest lap, Lance Stroll on the softs, and I was like, if this guy goes and steals the fastest lap after he almost stole it. Pierre Gasly did actually get it in the end on the sprint. But F1 Fantasy, I'd have been fuming. You had Lance Stroll, who just was absolutely nowhere. You had Esteban Ocon, who was collecting penalties for fun. It was really like that meme had returned, where it was like, Verstappen's had a crash, 5-second penalty for Esteban Ocon. I don't know what the hell he was doing. They served the penalty, got the penalty wrong, so they had to serve a penalty for not serving the penalty right. It just went round and round and round. A terrible weekend for Haas, really, because then also Behrman himself had issues and he had to retire from the race. So we didn't really have many retirements, and it's sad to say, but Haas was the worst team out there, so sad for them. And then also, I think the most heartbreaking one was Hadjar. Hadjar was comfortably running ahead of George Russell in P6. It looked like he had a brilliant race weekend to try and keep him in that fight between him and Sainz for 9th. And then he got a puncture. He just got a puncture on the last few laps, and it just tumbled him all the way down the ranking. So sad to see that for Hadjar, because he really did deserve more from this weekend than he got. But I think that then leads us to the podium positions. Of course, the actual race, spoiler alert, is Verstappen first, Piastri second, and Carlos Sainz third. What a weekend for Carlos Sainz. This is absolutely incredible. I cannot believe Carlos has been having this run of form. That makes it 2 podiums in this season for him in Williams. And I thought I was crazy saying he'd get a top 4 in that Williams as a prediction at the start of the season. I love seeing Carlos do well. Sainz is one of my favourite drivers on the grid, so I'm always happy to see him do well. And he didn't do anything wrong that race. Absolutely flawless from him. Capitalised on the McLaren issues with Norris behind him. Made sure Antonelli can overtake him in, realistically, probably the faster Mercedes throughout the weekend. I'm very, very happy to see Sainz there. And that comfortably puts him into 9th in the championship now. I don't think anyone's taking that from him anymore. It is him and then Albon. And then quickly, before I talk about the championship standings and a little bit more about what could happen, we do need to talk about Wide Gate 25, which is what I'm calling it. So obviously for me, it was a little sigh of relief. I was getting very, very nervous seeing Lando in P5, but it obviously it's not anything to write home about, Norris being in P4 and obviously Antonelli being overtaken by Norris. It's just funny because, like I mentioned, if Norris ended in P5, I would say Verstappen had like almost a 50% chance of winning this championship between him and Norris, purely because I could easily see Verstappen winning Abu Dhabi and I could easily see Norris being in P3, which would make Verstappen win the championship. It's a lot harder now because Norris, actually I'll talk about it in a little bit, but he needs to do a little bit more. Not Verstappen actually, Norris can do a little bit less. But it's just funny how it was a Mercedes powered car. Obviously Mercedes and McLaren both got that unit in them, and Antonelli just so happened to go wide. Cheeky little bit of a, just let it pass. But obviously that isn't the case, it was just an Antonelli mistake. But wow, that really does have effects on the championship, that one small move by Antonelli of all people. Absolutely incredible. I mean, I'm excited to see how him and Hamilton get it down to the final race. There's 2 points between them, by the way. Antonelli, my money's on Antonelli overtaking Hamilton in the championship. What the hell is that all about? Hamilton's got 7 championships, probably going to end in P7. Everything perfectly balanced. But then that leads us to the most important part of this video, I think, where I'll talk about it a bit more about everything you need to know as well, but the championship standings, like I mentioned, they're all between 16 points. Norris definitely still holds the advantage. Verstappen would have only needed first place to Norris P3 to win the championship, and he now needs Norris to be P4 or below, which I think is going to be a little bit more difficult because it really does look like Abu Dhabi heading into that track will be, again, double McLaren versus Verstappen. So I do think Norris will be able to comfortably come into P3. So I do think if everything goes right for McLaren, everything goes right for Norris, there's no mechanical issues, there's no crashes, Norris can cruise in P3 for Abu Dhabi and win the championship comfortably. But it's that whole sense of if anything goes wrong, pit stop issues, mechanical issues, McLaren just being McLaren, McLaren pretending that they are Ferrari because for some reason those two teams, both most historic teams in F1, have decided they don't even know what the hell they're doing in the sport. But it's gonna be an all-timer. I cannot wait for it. I think for my rankings for the Qatar Grand Prix, I think I'll give it. It's another one like Vegas where yes, it was better than Vegas, 100%. But at the same time, it very much got amplified because of how it sets up Abu Dhabi. It's a setup race. So for that, I think I have to keep it at a 7.5. Perfectly good race. I was entertained throughout it, but it wasn't the most crazy race. There was still like an Alonso train for most of it. Everyone knew that the pit stops were going to happen. Like, it was fun, the pit stop chaos when it was happening. But yeah, it wasn't the craziest race for me. So 7.5 out of 10. But for championship sense of how it's shaped up for Abu Dhabi, it'd probably be a 10 out of 10 honest. No, a 9 out of 10 because it could have been better for the general fan if a couple of other things here didn't happen or did happen. But anyway, thank you all so much for watching. Comment down below, who are you rooting for in the championship? Are you Team Norris, Team Verstappen, Team Piastri? How did you think about the Qatar Grand Prix? Did you think it was higher or lower than 7.5 out of 10? Where would you rank it in my rankings? And as per usual, please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. And I will see you all very soon because it's going to be a chock-a-block week of F1 content. And I'm hoping to kick this bleeding cold. I've had it now for nearly going on a week and it's doing my head in. But anyway, thank you all so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe and I'll see you all very soon. Bye-bye.